Now then, as I was saying before I cut off there, I believe I was still on Thor. So yeah, quick recap, just because, as I said before the snap, this is now me recording the next day. So just a quick recap of what I most likely said on Thor, because I haven't watched the footage from yesterday yet, so I don't 100% know. But yeah, so yeah, Thor, I really enjoyed his story arc in this movie, you know, with the whole, you know, the whole defeated warrior thing, got all fat, it's great. Mom set him straight. Yeah, it's good enough. Anyway, so yeah, but I do want to talk more about Thor in the final battle scene. I believe I touched on that before, but I want to go more into that now. So yeah, so Thor in the final battle scene, as I know I mentioned before. So yeah, we see Thanos sitting there, and then it's him, Captain America, and Iron Man, who first gets him. You're like, oh, he doesn't have the stones, it's our best chance to get him. Thor dual wields Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, and again, it's badass, but it's kind of funny still because he's fat. I just can't get over that. But yeah, this is probably the second best fight we get out of Thor in all of the current MCU. Number one definitely being, at least in my mind anyways, definitely being in Ragnarok. You know, the scene, and he doesn't even have Stormbreaker or Mjolnir. You know, it's the scene in Ragnarok where like, you know, he's fighting with Hela, and Hela's like, what were you the god of? And he goes into that, you know, little thing where he sees his dad, and like he gets powered up, you know, jumps down the bridge and starts just whooping ass. Like, I would say that's probably his best fight scene. But no, we get a really solid one from him here against Thanos. Interesting though, it seems that, I mean, I guess he's fat and a little out of shape, but it definitely seems that Thanos is having a much easier time with him here. Because granted, it was a short interaction they had in Infinity War, but in Infinity War, you see when Thanos arrives in Wakanda, and you know everyone's trying to stop him, you know, from getting the last stone ripping it out of Vision's head, and Thor, you know, he gets the stone, but then Thor flies over, and Thanos is blasting him, you know, giving him an energy shot from the gauntlet, and Thor's just kind of, you know, Thor deflects it with the axe, and he just throws the axe at him, and the axe is cutting through that energy blast. Like, it's just pushing past it easily, and then, you know, it embeds itself in Thanos' chest. And I get that, you know, so Thanos didn't have the gauntlet here, so, you know, like, it just wasn't Stormbreaker versus an energy blast from the gauntlet, where I guess Stormbreaker's the winner there. But I mean, yeah, I feel like Thanos was having a much easier time deflecting the axe, which I get it. This is a way different fight scene, way different choreographed, much longer, and all that. But I don't know. I just feel like, based off of how outclassed he was against Stormbreaker in Infinity War, I feel like he had a way easier time with it here, despite not having the gauntlet. Like, if he had the gauntlet amplifying him, like, I could understand that more. But I don't know, like I said, maybe Thor got a power nerf from, you know, just being so out of shape and whatnot. But I don't know, I noticed that, and it felt a little weird. Like, completely fine though, I had zero problem with it. Like, it wasn't something that stood out in the movie and like ruined everything. Like, oh no, Thanos should stand no chance against Thor. No, it was just something that I was like, huh. I was like, I feel like he's handling that axe a little better now, and especially considering that this is him technically fighting past Thanos. So this is a version of Thanos who has never seen Stormbreaker. You know, so now if it was like somehow a future Thanos or whatever who had seen Stormbreaker, you know, like, was ready for it, like, oh, you know, I remember this guy and this fucking axe. Like, okay, but, you know, again, past Thanos, never seen it. held his own, you know. Just something that was like, huh, maybe, you know, made me tilt my head a little bit for a second, but it's all good. And so yeah, so again, within that fight, then we see, like, again, Thor's dual wielding, doing some, you know, Thanos holding his own though, but still getting some good hits in, you know. Never in the entirety of the MCU, when every movie Thor was in, I never get enough lightning action. Never. Like, he's like, I don't understand why that's just not his go-to. Like, why throw a punch? Just shock them. Just call down lightning and just zap them to hell. Now, I get the real reason why you don't do this. It's because, you know, it's a special effect, and so, you know, that increases your budget and it's time consuming. It's easier to just punch them. I get that, but I don't know. I just never, in any of the Thor movies or any of the movies that Thor was in, I personally never got a satisfying lightning scene with the hammer axe. That is, because as I said earlier, the Ragnarok scene is awesome, but no hammer axe. Like, it's just him. So like he's lightning charged up, but like he's lightning punching. Like, I wanted to see the axe and the hammer do some damage, you know? At least being wielded by Thor. Captain America did a decent amount. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I was never like, I didn't get the one I wanted. We got some good stuff for sure. We absolutely got some good stuff, but I never got exactly what I wanted in terms of Thor hammer usage. And so, moving on from there, you know, Thor is, like I said, Thor is doing some damage on Thanos. But then there's one point where Thor throws the axe at Thanos, and I forget if it's Thanos deflects it or dodges it, and then Thanos grabs Thor by the throat and pins him against a rock. And so Thor is summoning Stormbreaker back to his hand, and Thanos has, you know, become aware that Thor has the ability, you know, to summon his weapons to him, turns around and catches it, which is fucking awesome, and begins to shove Stormbreaker into Thor's chest. And Thor's like, you know, like he's down there, he's pinned, but then we cut to a shot, it's a close-up shot of Mjolnir on the ground, and it just rises up. And so when I first saw this, I thought like, oh, okay, yeah, this makes sense. You know, Stormbreaker is currently being jammed into his chest. So call Mjolnir and then, you know, take a swipe at Thanos, get him off of you. So the hammer rises, and that's what I'm thinking is happening. I'm thinking it's Thor summoning Mjolnir. And then Mjolnir comes flying in, clips Thanos in the side of the head, you know, like hits him, goes past him, and then it's coming back, and like I thought, and what I'm willing to bet most people thought was, it's coming back to Thor's hand, like Thor is summoning it back to him. But no, the hammer keeps going, and god damn it, Captain America catches it. God damn it. Captain America wielding Mjolnir. And Thor again, still being choked by Thanos. Like, Thor sees all this happening, and Thor, for a moment there, like, gets a laugh and smiles. He's like, I knew it. And then Thanos stomps him into the ground. And that's where I'm gonna transition now from Thor over to Captain America. Captain America, now, I saved the best two for last, Captain America and Iron Man. I haven't yet decided whom I enjoyed more in this movie. Like, these two are clearly the stars of this movie, Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. Like, they absolutely have the most screen time. They have the best lines. They have they have all the great action scenes. Like, as it should be too, because, you know, Robert Downey Jr., the man who, you know, Iron Man, the original, the guy who started the MCU, and then of course just Captain America, the leader of the Avengers. Been a focal point through all this. But I can't quite decide who I liked overall more in this movie. But I'll walk through Captain America and we'll get there eventually. I say that a lot. But the scene I mentioned before, when Captain America picks up Mjolnir, that very well might be my favorite moment in all of cinema, like of everything I've ever seen, because I didn't see it coming. Like I in the back of my head I knew it was possible, but just again the way they played that scene was beautiful. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry, but it's beautiful. We'll get there. So yeah, so Captain America. So back to the beginning again, as I've done. After the snap, Cap goes up into space. You know, helps with the killing of President Thanos. But on the way up there, once they, when Nebula tells them like where they can find the rocket tracks down and all that, and he's speaking to Black Widow, and he says that line that you see in the trailer. He's like, if this doesn't work, like this has to work, because if it doesn't, I don't know what we're gonna do. So like that to me, like that. Again, even though I've been beaten over the head with that scene a million times thanks to the trailers and whatnot, but that line and that moment to me was very moving, just because Captain America is usually the eternal optimist of the Avengers. Like if you go back to say like Civil War, when he's talking to Tony about like what happens, he's like, we'll do it together. It's like he's always like, we'll find a way. Like there's a way. We'll fight to the last man. He's like, we don't trade lives. He's always been the optimist. But in that moment, he's like, it's not even like, if this doesn't work, then we'll come up with the next plan. Like, we'll keep going, we'll keep fighting. But here he's like, if this doesn't work, I don't know what we're gonna do. And Chris Evans played it so great, because clearly, because Thanos already beat them once, and he beat them worse than anything ever in the history of Marvel. Like he snapped out half the universe, and he couldn't stop it. And so, like Captain America, he's a man beaten at this point. Like now they found one last glimmer of hope here. Like they're going to fight Thanos. They're going to what they hope is to get the gauntlet from him and undo what he did. But like this is it for him. Like this is the last ditch effort. This is the last of the last ditch efforts, and he knows that. And to see him like not defeated, because like I said, they haven't gone into space yet to find out that they really are defeated. But to see him defeated like that is something. Like I don't know, that scene spoke to me personally, just because of that. So yeah, so then like I said, they go into space, find out Thanos already destroyed the stones. They come back, cut to 5 years later. So then, oh, sorry, actually I'm getting ahead of myself. Before they even went into space, the rescue of Tony Stark. So before they go into space, and Rocket comes up with this plan, Captain Marvel is present. Like if you saw her movie Captain Marvel, her end credit scene is she meets up with the Avengers. Like if you remember the end credit scene of Infinity War when Nick Fury has the pager and he pages Captain America. Well, like her end credit scene was response to that end credit scene, so the movie starts off, she's just there. So they bring so then I guess they told her about Tony, or possibly they found some sort of signal, I don't know, but yeah, Iron Man was lost in space, and she goes up and she gets him, brings him down, and so then Cap and Tony have this discussion. Like Cap hasn't like. In a bit of contrast to the scene I previously talked about, where he says, if this doesn't work, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, he is trying to talk Tony, he is trying to motivate Tony into one last fight. Like, we can still do this, all hope isn't lost kind of thing. Like, I don't know if that's him lying to Tony or him lying to himself, but he's trying to tell Tony, like, we got to keep fighting, we got to keep fighting. Whereas Tony is just like, it's fucking over. He's like, we lost. He's like, because Tony was on Titan, he got his ass kicked by Thanos, got stabbed, spent 3 months, or however, I believe it was 3 months, in floating through space, you know, got that last minute right. Like, Tony is done. Like, he is just done. But Cap is trying to motivate. He's like, you know, Tony, we've been through this, you know, we can do this, we're the Avengers, yada, yada, yada. And Tony just throws it all back in his face. He's like, oh yeah, the Avengers, Earth's mightiest heroes, huh? We can't save the world, we're all Avengers. We lost. He's like, we failed. There is no more world, pretty much. I mean, like, there is, but, you know, like, Tony is taking this loss really harsh. And Cap, and this is what I believe leads up to that other scene with Black Widow where I mentioned, like, if I don't, this is where I don't know what to do. Because I believe Tony struck a nerve with him. Because Tony's making a lot of sense. Like, you can kind of see it come over Cap's face. And he hits the point where he kind of stops pushing Tony, you know, to motivate him. Especially there's a moment where, so Iron Man, at the end of Iron Man 3, Tony got the chest piece removed. You know, like the magnet that was keeping the shrapnel. I was sorry, like, he got that removed. He got all the shrapnel removed. But you see in Infinity War, he now has like a, just like a chest piece that like just kind of sticks to him. You know, like, it's not surgically implanted like the original was, but it just kind of sticks to him. But he rips it off and he puts it in Cap's hand. And he's like, hey, you want to go fight Thanos? Fucking go ahead. Here, take this with you, because I don't need it anymore, because I'm done. And so, like, that I believe is the scene that probably, like I said, leads up to the other one where Cap's like, I don't know what we're gonna do, because like he's probably got Tony's words playing in his mind. He's like, yeah, fuck, man, I don't know. So yeah, go up, Thanos, zone's destroyed, come back down. 5 years later. By the way, I realize I'm all over the place, but fuck it. So yeah, 5 years later, we see Cap leading like a, God, what's the word? It's a group thing. It's like a group meeting. It's a support group. That's the word. I got there. A support group for people who are just trying to move on with their lives, you know, post-snap. So like there's this one guy talking there. He's like, hey, you know, I went on a date with this guy, like, and, you know, he cried first when the salads came, I cried when dessert came, kind of thing. Like, but hey, it's a step, you know, I went on a date, you know, trying to move on. And so, you know, Cap is telling these people, like, hey, you know, like, one day at a time, it's the best we can do, you know. When the snap happened, you know, like, it threw everyone for a loop, but, you know, hey, we're still here, and we owe it to ourselves and the people who are gone to, you know, make the best of it, do what we can, move on with our lives, you know, live for them and ourselves, kind of thing. But then, cut from that, Cap goes back to the Avengers base, meets up with Black Widow, and he tells them again, you've seen in the trailer a million times, where he tells, like, all I do is tell people to move on, like, but not us. Because, you know, it still weighs heaviest on them, because they're the ones who were there on the front lines, they're the ones who, you know, tried like hell to prevent it and failed. And so, and it's at this point, so it's in this scene where Ant-Man shows up. And Ant-Man, you know, he tells Cap about the time travel thing. And Cap's in. It's like, this is another ray of hope for Cap. Like, he thought that going up into space 5 years ago and trying to steal the gauntlet back from Thanos, or not back from Thanos, from Thanos, was it. But now, like, there's another ray of hope. And they figure, you know, like, what do we got to lose? Let's do it. But they realize they're gonna need, because Ant-Man doesn't have, like, all the technical know-how to build this thing. Like, you know, he can help with it, because he understands the quantum realm to a degree, but he's gonna need help. So they know they gotta go find Tony. So they go out, they go find Tony in his cabin in the woods. And again, Tony's just out. He's just out. Like, he's married to Pepper. He has a 5-year-old daughter now, and he's just out. And Cap doesn't, to my surprise, personally, Cap doesn't press him. You know, don't get me wrong. Like, he pitches it to him, but he doesn't really press him. Like, I would figure, like, Cap would throw it, like, the, hey man, like, this is it, like, this is really it, like, you know, we gotta take this, we gotta grab this opportunity with both hands and seize it as hard as we can and fight as hard as we can, you know, because that's what we do. We're the Avengers. You know, like, we got to do this. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to the people. Give them a chance. Yada, yada. And of course, you know, Tony's resisting. He's like, hey, man, it's like, I tried it before. We failed. I got my family now. This is the most important thing in the world to me. Blah, blah, blah. And Cap doesn't press him. Like, Cap gets it. He's like, yeah, I get it, Tony. Family, all that. And they just kind of leave him. Like, they just leave him. And then, so then they go back to the, Avengers base to work on it. And, you know, eventually Iron Man does come around and they figure it out. And so time heist is happening, and Cap decides, or it's decided that Cap is going to go to New York to help recover the Space Stone, the Time Stone, and the Mind Stone from New York. And so like they go back. It's him, Hulk, Iron Man, and Ant-Man go back to the events of Avengers 1, right when they decide to go back right at the moment they've defeated Loki. And it's so, you know, if you remember in Avengers 1 when they defeat Loki, they're at the top of Avengers Tower, and you like Loki's on the ground after being pummeled by the Hulk, and like he's pulling himself up, and they're all there standing around him and whatnot. And so Iron Man and Captain America are coordinating their movements, like, okay, like we're like past us and past Avengers, like they're moving here, like, because you know they gotta steal the scepter now, because Shield is now in possession of the scepter, so they gotta steal that from them. So you know we're seeing the aftermath of that we didn't get to see, like them going down the elevator. And you get some really funny parts here too. One of the funniest parts in the movie is when so they're all in that Avengers Tower. Well, I guess then it was Stark Tower penthouse, and Ant-Man and Captain America are hiding behind a bar while Iron Man is monitoring from outside the window, like using his high-tech gear. And and Iron Man is like checking his location. He tells Captain America, he's like, I'm really sorry, Steve. Like that old uniform, that old outfit you had really didn't do much for your ass. And Ant-Man responds and goes, don't listen to him, Cap. Like, I think you have a great ass. Like, in fact, that's America's ass. And that's great. And so then they're monitoring them. They're like, the Avengers are taking this staff down the elevator and whatnot. And Cap has to get the staff. So like it's a bunch of SHIELD agents who, as we learn later in Civil War and Winter Soldier, are actually Hydra agents. They have the staff going down the elevator, and Cap gets in the elevator with them to steal it, you know, take it from them. And what he does, and this moment got a big applause in my theater, where so the scene is set up exactly like in Winter Soldier, when Cap was in the elevator, and you know, like he knows that they're about to try and apprehend him. Like he knows all these people are in the elevator to fight him, and you get that great scene in Winter Soldier where Cap goes, "Before we begin, does anyone want to get off?" And you know, then they all try and mob him, but he beats them up. It's like it's a recreation of that scene, but this time, like Cap, armed with that past knowledge and knowing that these people are all Hydra, like he turns to I think his name is Agent Sitwell. He's the guy. He's like the bureaucrat in charge of all these Hydra agents at the moment. And hang on, okay, cool. And like Captain America just whispers in his ear, or I guess he tells him, like, hey, I got orders to take the staff. And they're like, what orders, Cap? Cap's like, orders from up top, orders from director. I forget what Robert Redford's character's name is, like, but he's worried about the safety staff, so I have direct orders for him to take the staff. And Cap leans in, whispers in his ear, "Hail Hydra." Oh, it was so great. Like I said, that moment got a big applause in my theater, probably everyone else's too. But man, like, don't get me wrong, that was great, that was slick. It's smart. It's perfect for him. It's like he accomplished, like, and they handed him the staff. The next shot you see is him walking out of the elevator by himself, holding the big ass briefcase that has the staff in it. And then you even see him like smirk to himself, like, "Ha, got him." But like, and that, don't get me wrong, that was great. I loved it. But a part of me wishes they would have fought again. Like, a part of me wishes, like I wish he would have said something that like not everyone else in the elevator wouldn't even have gotten it, because again, like, this is him time traveling, where he, like, Captain America could have gone, "So I'll ask again, does anyone want to get off before we get started?" And like, they wouldn't get the reference, but just like for the audience, it would have been cool, just like, or for himself, you know, would have been nice. But no, again, completely loved it. It was perfect. So then he gets off that, and now meanwhile, so he's that's him getting the staff, which is the mind gem. So meanwhile, Ant-Man and Iron Man are going after the Tesseract, which is the space gem. But their plan goes a little bit awry, and what happens is, like, Loki is able to get his hands on the Tesseract, and he teleports himself out of there. So now they're looking for Loki. So, you know, and of course they know Loki's a shapeshifter. He can change his appearance whatever the hell he wants. So now Captain America, present Captain America, is walking with the staff. Like, he's got it in the briefcase. And he runs into his past self, and it's fucking great. Like, so he runs into his past self, and now his past self thinks he's Loki. He's like, "I've got eyes on Loki." And present Cap is trying to tell past Cap, like, "No, I'm not Loki." But like, obviously he knows it's not gonna work, so they start fighting. And little random side thought here, if you've ever seen Futurama, the cartoon Futurama, it's not off the air, but there's an episode of Futurama where all the characters in that show meet themselves from another universe, and two of the characters fight, and like their moves are perfectly symmetrical. And then there's a line that another character in the show has. He says, now perfectly symmetrical fighting won't solve anything." And so that's the line that goes through my head immediately here, because these two, like, they're matching their moves. Like, you know, they each knows what the other's going to do, essentially, because it's the same fighting style, because it's the same person. But yeah, like, oh yeah, they're having a great fight. But then also you get some lines from past Captain America that were said in previous Captain America movies. Like, he said, past Cap says to present Cap, he's like, "I can do this all day," which is a callback to the line in Civil War and in Captain America 1, when Captain America's fighting Iron Man, and then in Captain America 1, before he's powered up, he's getting beat up in an alley. He's like, "I can do this all day." And then he says, what's the other one? He says, "I can do this all day." I can't remember what the other one is at the moment. But he says another line, and like, Cap's just like, present Captain America's like, yeah, I know. It's like, even he's starting to see how corny some of his lines are. And oh man, the whole fight scene is so great. And then past Cap gets the upper hand on present Cap, and he's got him. They're on the ground. He's got him in a chokehold, and then he knows how, because again, it's himself, so he knows how to rattle himself. And he says, he's like, "Bucky's still alive," and that gets him to loosen his grip just for a second, and he smacks him and knocks him unconscious. And I don't know, it works for me, like, cause like, I get it, yeah, like that would rattle him, cause like, how do you, like, cause again, in past Cap's mind, he's fighting Loki, or at least, you know, not himself. He doesn't believe that he's fighting himself. So how would this other person know about Bucky? But I don't know. I just wish the fight could have ended like by like knockout, you know. I mean, I get that he knocked out, but like more without the trickery. Like, he just outfought him. I wish we could have seen that. I wish we could have seen him outfight him. But then, so like, he knocks him out, and then we get just one of the other great lines of this movie, one of the great parts. So past Captain America is out cold on his stomach, and present Cap picks up the staff, and he's walking away, and he looks down at himself, and he says, "That is America's ass." It's so good. The writing in this movie is everything in this movie is so good. The way that fight scene played out, you know, it's like Captain America recognizing, like, God, I can be corny and lame sometimes. And just, oh man, like playing on his own emotions to beat himself. Again, I do wish it would have ended a little differently, but that doesn't mean it wasn't great. You know, can't get everything you want in life. And just the walking, that final line at the end there, that is America's ass. Bravo! Bravo! So then, so Cap has the staff, comes back out, and he meets up with Tony, Hulk, and Ant-Man, and Tony and Ant-Man tell him like, yo, we fucked up, we fucked up our part. Loki got away with the Tesseract, so now we've lost the space gem, we need a space gem. And they both have this moment, like this in sync moment, where they're like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? They're like, God damn it, do we have to? Yes, we do. Where like they're having this inside conversation where Ant-Man's like, what are you two talking about? And they're like, yo, and then they explain to him, we know another point in history where the Tesseract was, and not only that, there are more Pym particles, because they know what happened to the Tesseract after it was initially lost in Captain America 1. Like they know S.H.I.E.L.D. recovered it. And they know, and they even know, and through Captain America 2, like when they found the underground S.H.I.E.L.D. bunker, like they knew where it was. So they decided to go back in time, to get the Tesseract from the 70s. Or 70s or 60s. I forget. Anyways, so Ant-Man goes back to the present where Cap and Tony go back in time to get the Tesseract. And this scene is mostly Iron Man heavy. Like Cap doesn't do a terrible amount here. He disguised himself as a random just a random soldier, and Tony's a like a higher up bureaucrat, in a suit and all that. You get some great stuff I'll talk about later with Tony and his dad. But yeah, the key thing for Cap here is while on the base, Cap is like ducking in and out of rooms, trying not to be noticed, and he ducks into Peggy Carter's office, and there's a moment, it's really kind of like aww, where he's standing looking through a window, and like if she just looked up, like she would see him. Like it's not even like a two-way mirror or anything, it's just a regular window right outside her office, and like you kind of want her to look up just so he can just have like a brief moment with Peggy, but like at the same time, like he knows in his head, like I can't let her see me, I gotta get the hell out of here. And so like, but you still have this sweet little moment when then he gets out of there. Iron Man successfully procures the Tesseract. I forget if it was Cap or Iron Man who went and got the Pym particles. No, it was Cap. It was Cap. Yeah. So yeah, we see Michael Douglas. We see, they use that de-aging tech on Michael Douglas, and we see him in the lab, like working on, presumably Ant-Man shit. And he gets a phone call, and it's Captain America, like just drawing him out of his office, telling him like, oh, there's a package for you upstairs, and it's kind of glowing and buzzing and whatnot, and yada yada yada. So he gets him out of there, and he sneaks into his office to steal the Pym particles. So that's how him and Iron Man can get back to where they belong. So yeah, so they go back forward in time, mission accomplished, they got the Tesseract, Iron Man builds the glove, yada yada yada. So now we go, I'm just gonna jump ahead to the final fight, where, my God, like, don't get me wrong, like, everyone in this fight scene gets some good hits in, but in my opinion, Captain America is the star of the final battle with Thanos. Simply for multiple reasons, but so yeah, as I said earlier, like, so he's Thanos. God, I get ahead of myself. I get so excited about this fucking movie. Ugh! I'm seeing it again tomorrow, by the way. But so yeah, so Cap, Iron Man, and Thor find him first. They all 3-on-1. They're all going down. Thanos is standing there though, just like absolutely holding his own. He's got his full armor. He's got this dope ass, huge, double-sided sword, and he's going to town, And so, like I said, you get to that moment where I forget what he did to Iron Man. He may have just smacked him, I'm not entirely sure. But like, he smacks Iron Man. He's choking out Thor, you know, about to shove his own axe into him, whatnot. And we see the hammer rise, and then it flies at him, it flies back, and he fucking catches it. And Cap has Mjolnir. And if you remember in Age of Ultron, like, they did that little fun thing where like Thor put his hammer down, and all the Avengers took turns trying to raise it. Excuse me. And Cap got his turn, and it moved a little. And you saw that look on Thor's face where he was like, "What?" But then Cap couldn't get it up. And but so like I said, when Cap's holding the hammer, and Thor's like, "I knew it." And it's like Cap, like in my own, I created my own little thing in my head, because you know, it's like, so that's the only time we see, anyways, Cap try and lift the hammer is in Age of Ultron, and he can't do it. So then, like, the hammer is sitting there, and so like I said, I created this little narrative in my head where like Cap sees that Thor is about to die, that Iron Man's incapacitated at the moment, and he's like, I gotta do something. And he sees the hammer there, and like in my head, like he just says to himself, he's like, I have to wield this thing now. It's like, I have to be able to pick this thing up. I need this to save everyone. You know, it's like I know I tried before, but like that was like pride and for fun and whatnot. It's like, but I am worthy now. It's like, I have to be. If I can't do this, everyone's going to die and we are fucked. It's like, I've got to wield this. I've got to be worthy to hold this hammer now. And he picks it up. And oh my God, like I said, this whole scene, this is quite possibly my favorite scene in all of cinema. Just the way it's shot. So then the way it's shot, the way it's played out, everything. So yeah, so Cap catches the hammer, cuts back like a mid shot of Captain America holding the hammer. Like, he starts charging short, like Thanos, even Thanos has a moment, he's like, what? Like, he starts charging towards Thanos. You get this wide shot of Captain America running towards Thanos, like swinging the hammer like Thor does when he's about to fly. Although Cap's not about to fly, but he's swinging it to get momentum. And then he just like he's charging towards Thanos, like runs up and jumps up and uppercuts him with the hammer. And it's this just beautiful wide shot. Like, oh my God, like I can't wait for this movie to come out on, like, for Blu-ray and 4K and all that, because I will absolutely like freeze frame on that and make that image my background. Because oh my God, that shot is so beautiful. Like, whoever was in charge of that, fucking give that man a raise. Or woman, I don't know. But just like, because you see Cap, and you know, he's battle damaged and whatnot, and Thanos is just this big imposing figure holding this badass sword coming at him, and like the background is on fire, the ground is, you know, smoking and all that shit, and he just uppercuts him at the chin. You know, like, you see, I see it so vividly, because again, it's one of my favorite shots of the whole movie. It's so good. And then he's just going to work on Thanos. Like, he is owning him with the hammer. Like, he smacks him around it. And then I wasn't sure about this at first, because I wasn't sure if it was just a Thor thing. But this is interesting now I think about it, because I always thought that the hammer was a way for Thor to just like control and channel his power. So like, my understanding was that the hammer couldn't generate the lightning. I thought the lightning comes from Thor, and the hammer is just, you know, like I said, like, it's the conduit, it's what he channels it through. But wielding the hammer, Cap calls down the lightning. Like, he does it twice. Like, the first one, like, he's taking this swing, and like we see the light like traveling, like we see a stream shoot out, and it's like traveling, it looks like it's underground, and it pops up kind of and like just shocks him. And then he comes and smacks him with the hammer, and he raises it up, you know, like to summon the lightning, and then brings it down, and you see this huge thunder, just this huge thunderbolt just strike Thanos while he's on the ground. It's so good. But then, like, even after all that, Thanos gets up and he goes to town on Captain America. like he understands now, like I guess he understands like the hammer and that Cap can use like the initial shock and surprise is over. So like he gets up and he starts wailing on Captain America, like wailing on him with his sword, and he breaks the shield, like, you know, Cap's shield. He splits the shield in half, and like throughout all this damage, like he causes Cap to lose Mjolnir, stabs him in the leg, and, you know, just then knocks him back. And Cap is just down, you know, like he is down, he is bleeding, he is hurt. Thor is still down, Iron Man is still down, Thanos is just standing over them like he's about to own them all. And like he gives this speech too. He's like, everything I've ever done up to this point, he's like, none of it was personal. Like it was all just, you know, for, in his mind, the greater good. But then he tells Cap, he's like, but you know what? Like when I destroy this planet, I'm gonna smile. Because like the Avengers and whatnot have just been such a pain in his ass. Like he's gonna enjoy killing them. And Cap, you know, like Cap just sheer willpower just pulls himself up. You know, like even his hat, like I said, he's only got half the shield, like the bottom half of the shield. Like he tightens the strap. He's like, I'm not giving up. Like, I'm not giving up. It's like, even if, like, no matter what, I will stand and fight here. It's like, because this is the last stand. Like, this is it. And as he's getting up, and Thanos is giving his speech, like, Thanos' army teleports down. All of them. Like, Ebony Maw, all the, I forget what that old fucking crew is called at the moment. Like, the Dark Army, or, no, it's not the Dark Army. I don't fucking know. I don't remember. Like all of them, all the Chitauri, a bunch of creatures we haven't seen, which I wish we would have seen earlier. Like in Infinity War, when they siege Wakanda, like it's just a bunch of the Chitauri that we saw in Avengers 1. Where now he comes down, he's got like this cool like gorilla looking one, like it's huge, it's like, you know, like 4 or 5 stories tall or some shit like that. I was like, why haven't I gotten more of this thing? Like this thing is cool. You know, but I get it, they saved it for the end. It's fine, Russos, I forgive you for it. It's understandable. But still, so yes, like it's Captain America at the moment, like standing on this hill. He's just staring down this army, like it's just him. Like all the other Avengers are down, you know, it's just him. And he's still just like, let's go. But then we hear a voice from we don't know where, but we hear a voice. And it says, Captain America, you know, like I'm here. And you know, we can easily tell it's Sam, you know, like it's the Falcon. And he's like, and you know, like Cap's looking around for him, and we hear Falcon go, on your left. On your left. The line from Captain America 2, when they first met, like when in Winter Soldier, when Sam Wilson is jogging around the Washington Monument for, you know, for his morning exercise, and Captain America is jogging as well, although, you know, he's a lot faster. So whenever he passes Sam, he's like, on your left, and like it annoys him. But so here he's like, on your left, and we see it, and we see one of Doctor Strange's portals open, one of his teleportation portals open, you know, the sling ring. We see one of the portals open, and they come through. They all start coming through. Like we see Falcon come through, we see Doctor Strange come through. And then the camera pans out and we see just a bunch more portals open. A bunch more. Like we get everyone's back. Spider-Man comes back. The Wasp comes back. Wong comes back. Everyone who, yeah, like everyone, like all the people from like the Sanctum, like all Doctor Strange and his wizarding people, they all come back. All the Guardians come back. Drax, Quill, Groot, Mantis, everyone comes back. And I forget if she comes through a portal, but I was gonna say Pepper Potts in the rescue armor, like she Tony Stark built her own armor. Like in the comics, like her hero name is Rescue, but they never officially say it here, but it's Rescue, you know. I forget if she comes through the portal, if she just flies in, I don't know. But Scarlet Witch comes back, you know, so it's like, it's the Avengers, like it's their army, like all of them, and they're all just behind Cap. You know, it's like Cap's, you know, Thor gets up, Iron Man gets up, and it's just Thanos and his army versus the Avengers and theirs. And like Black Panther comes back, and along with everyone from Wakanda, like all his tribe, all the other tribes come through, Shuri, you know, like it's fucking on. It is fucking on. And just, oh my God. And then of course the camera comes in on Cap, and Cap calls Mjolnir back. He's like it's on now, because he knows they can do this now. Like, so like you see it in his face, like you see in his eyes, like, oh yeah, he's like, we can fight now and we can win. And then we get it. I forget, so because I was gonna say 10 years we've been waiting for this, but it hasn't been 10 years. So it was, I forget, when did Avengers 1? Avengers 1 was 2011, I think. Maybe, I forget. I honestly forget what exact year it was, but it's been years leading up to this, and we finally get it. Cap says, "Avengers, assemble." And on that note, everyone charges. Like, it's on. It is wartime. Hold on a second. 1, 2, 3. There you go, buddy. Driving in LA, man. Driving in LA. Yeah, I like to give people a 3 count before I honk at them, because I get it. Sometimes you're looking at your phone, sometimes you drop something. Yeah, I get it. You know, but this guy was taking too long, I had to honk at him. Anyways, so yeah. Okay, camera overheated there, but we're back. So, yeah, as I was saying, final fight scene, you know, like everyone behind Cap. Cap's leading the charge. Oh, so good. So good. And so they fight, they eventually defeat Thanos, and so then, you know, everyone's just moving on, and it's decided that, I'll talk about the obvious stuff when I get to Iron Man, but everyone's moving on. So, you know, Cap decides, like, hey, I'll take the stones back, you know, like, because they stole the stones, you know, from the past, but they got to put them back to correct the timeline and make sure everything, you know, plays out as it's supposed to. So he volunteers to go back to put the stones away, and Mjolnir, because remember, Thor took the hammer from his past self. So when Cap puts the ether back, he puts Mjolnir back as well. So he goes back in time, but we don't follow him back in time. Like, we see him on like the platform, and Hulk and Falcon and Bucky and all them, like, they're standing around, and you know, like, time passes differently in the quantum realm and all that. So like, really, Captain America will be gone, you know, like for like a week or whatever, but for them it'll only be 10 seconds. And so, you know, like, Hulk sends him off, and then, you know, like, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They try and bring him back, and he doesn't come back. And they're like, oh crap, you know, like, what happened? Is it the machine? Like, fix it, da, da, da. And then in the distance, Bucky notices, I believe it's Bucky, notices and like sees an old man sitting down, and like he just knows. And so like he's like, Sam. And so him and Sam start walking over there, and like, we know it's Cap, like we know it is now, like we the audience knows. And Bucky turns to Sam and he says, go ahead. And he's like, but you? He's like, nah. It's like, it's your turn, go ahead. Because Bucky and Cap had shared a little moment before Cap went back in time to return everything. So like, I guess, I mean, I personally didn't get it, but I've heard it said that like we kind of knew, like there was a little thing between, like, where they knew like Cap wasn't coming back or whatever. I don't know. I personally didn't pick up on that. But anyways, Buck tells Sam, like, hey, go ahead. So we see, and it's old Captain America, like elderly old man Steve Rogers. And so what happened, and so Sam tells, like, what happened? You're like, you didn't come back. He's like, well, you know, I decided to try some of that living Tony was always talking about. So when he went back and placed the stones back, he stayed in his own time, like lived out his life. And then, you know, through the complications of time travel, he somehow ended up back there at the right moment, blah, blah, blah. I don't fucking understand how that happened either. Don't worry about it. It just happened. So he comes back there, So he's back there and he's talking to Sam. He's like, you know, it's like, I lived the life. It was a good life. You know, da da da. And Sam says something to the effect of like, man, it's gonna be weird living in a world without Captain America. And Captain America goes, well, about that. And he reaches to the side and he has the shield in a protective case kind of thing. And he says, why don't you try that on? And he gives Sam the shield and he anoints him the new Captain America. And then for the final shot of the movie is then we get a little shot of Captain America's left hand. He's got a ring on, and Sam says, you want to tell me about the girl? And Steve looks off at this, he's like, no, I don't think so. And it flashes back to the 60s or 70s, whatever year it is. And we see a nice little house, you know, just a quaint, pleasant little home. And the camera tracks in through the door, through the window, and we see Steve and Peggy dancing. Finally, Steve and Peggy dance, like they said they would in Captain America 1. He promised her a dance, and when the plane was going down, she's like, you better survive because you owe me a dance. And they finally got their dance, so obviously they got married. He lived out his life with Peggy. And that's a wrap on Cap. And I still need to do Iron Man. But I see, once again, my camera's running out of battery. So this is going to be a 3-parter. Because the next part is just going to be devoted to Iron Man. The Iron Man, like, more general thoughts. Because I'm going to call it here before the camera just randomly dies on me. So the next time you see me, again, I'll be wearing different clothes. So, one more time.